Hello and welcome to another edition, episode number 44 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. My name is Jim, standing in a room in my house in Tampa Bay, and joining me, across from me, staring right at me, looking like Bruce Wayne, he's got his glasses on today, is my friend, co-host, former coach, professional evaluator, and successful business owner, non-skier, but a fisherman. Don't confuse the two. And he's got an underrated smile, Jake Epstein.
It gets better and better at episode 44, your intros.
Every week.
Yes.
We can't miss out on the week.
I do have some sad news. Well, it's not that sad, but
okay.
It kind of tells you the deficiencies of the Epstein lineage. I went to order some new glasses the other day from a company that they don't advertise on our podcast for some reason, but they do on the Joe Rogan podcast. I guess they have a few more listeners than we do.
Rogan does, yeah.
I
don't know about that.
Just a few. Yeah, maybe a couple. Anyway, Roca. So I was all excited, I tried, I'm like, God, these glasses are so comfortable. I can actually go play catch, with the glasses if I had to instead of putting contacts in. So I order them. I'm all excited. And then they write me back and say, we're very sorry, sir, but we can't make our glasses in your prescription. It's too bad. Your prescription is too thick. So I was totally bummed out. And my prescription's about half of what my dad is. So you can imagine what he was like trying to play, in the major leagues with, he's like 2,800 his vision.
So wait a second. What's your prescription? I'm confused.
So my prescription, if you go to the eye doctor and they the first thing on there is always an E. It's usually like the biggest one. I can't see that.
Really?
Yeah.
So your prescription is that? Have your eyes gotten worse over the years?
Not really. I mean, they've been pretty stable for probably 15, 20 years. But yeah, it's just kind of, I have a bad astigmatism too. So it's kind of a hereditary bad gene that I received. So yeah, seeing was always very important. Once I was diagnosed with bad vision, a lot of people just go to the eye doctor. Oh, you're seeing pretty good. Well, it's like, I need to see better than good. And my prescription's very,
you got a phone
it's very difficult. It's very difficult to lock in because there's so many different variables, but it's not just nearsighted, so,
that was Roku calling, by the way, or whatever it is. That was them calling, wanted to be a sponsor of the podcast.
They're like, we're really sorry. Now you're giving us bad publicity for blind people. There's a market for people that have bad vision. So anyway,
hereditary. So that's the negative news to start off the show. We do have a lot of positives though that go into this radio or podcast program, whatever you want to call it today. We're dissecting one of the greatest hitters of all time, Manny Ramirez. By the way, do you know where I got that underrated smile comment from? I'll tell you where I got it from. It's a rhetorical question. I was listening to another podcast this week, not the Rogan podcast, but it has to do with fitness. And the host was doing an overrated and underrated segment as it pertained to fitness and a couple of other questions with life and whatnot. And I think we should do one of those on one show. We should do like an overrated, underrated segment as it pertains to hitting, because there's a lot of overrated things and a lot of underrated aspects of hitting that are not discussed. So, and that's how I came up with the underrated smile comment. Yeah. Your smile is underrated though.
Yeah, it's because I'm always have a bad look on my face.
Always a sad. I don't think so. A sad. Are you alluding to a sad look?
Just me. No, it's really funny. When I was coaching at Mizzou, when was that? 19. I had a pretty sweet mustache going because we were on a really nice winning streak. Going. I think it was like the best SEC conference season we had since joining the SEC, right? So we were going good. And I told the guys that I'd grow the mustache for as long as we kept the streak going, and we were, well above 500 and kind of rolling through. So the stash kind of took on a life of its own. And then it got dyed like dark black. So it was even better. So anyway, so my kids, they weren't there, right? They were in Colorado. I was in Columbia.
Yeah.
So, but all the games were on the SEC network. So they took a screenshot of me with the nastiest look on my face. Like one of my hitters must have fouled off a 1-0 fastball or something like that. They were late. And the camera was zoomed into the dugout. And I had this nasty mustache and the meanest look. And they, of course, stopped the TV and took pictures. And then when I got home, it was plastered everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yes, I have a good growl. I have a good, kind of mean disappointment.
How did you dye your mustache? Because maybe I can dye my beard.
Just for men, man. I've never done that before. So it was like, I was going, I don't know what happened. I hadn't shaved for a couple of days. And one of the pitchers was like, dang, Ep, you got a pretty sweet stash. I'm like, yeah, they're like, you should grow it out. I'm like, you know what? If you guys suck it up and, sweep South Carolina and go into, I don't know who else we were playing, Kentucky or whatever. Tennessee. Tennessee was really good that year too. And we go in there and we take 2 out of 3 against Tennessee, then I'll keep it going. So all of a sudden we did. And I'm like, wow, I guess I got to keep it. I mean, fans were heckling me. I mean, who heckles the hitting coach, right? Like,
I got to ask, does Just for Men gel work?
Yes,
there's really plenty of like powders out there that you can like dab on your beard or mustache that make it darker. That's a lot easier than Just for Men. I don't know how Just for Men works. I've never used it. I will admit though that I do have a powder, like kind of like a a makeup like what women use, makeup blush type thing they use in their face. Well, I have that, and you can make your beard darker that way. And you can make your hair darker too, like your roots. You can make it darker. And it's rather it becoming, if your hair is becoming
people are going to see me in a hole. They're going to be like, oh gosh, he really took Jim's advice to heart with this powder stuff. Yeah. So I didn't know that. I went to Walgreens.
Well, if people see me in person, they're now, and if they listen to this show, they now know that I use fake beard coloring once in a while.
I would have never. No, you're too young for that anyway.
Well, my beard grows weird. My hair grows on my head grows in darker than my beard. My beard on my face is more brown than the hair on my head. So I try to get the two to match.
Yeah, it's a sickness, Jim.
Although I am getting a little gray in some areas on the top of my head. I just got a haircut a week ago.
It's weird, this topic we're on, because it's very useful to our listeners. But my goatee.
Are you not enjoying our?
I am.
No, you don't seem like you're enjoying this first riffing segment of the program.
No. I like it because the top of my hair is still fairly dark.
Yeah, you got good genes, so don't complain about your eyes.
No, I have the hair genes, but my goatee area is like almost all white now.
Yeah,
but the sides aren't. Just weird how it happens. I kind of like who's the guy? What's his name? Had that white beard for when he was early. The Cubs coach, Cubs manager, David Ross.
Oh, I thought they meant Joe Madden because Joe Madden great too.
Joe Madden's old, yeah. He's older, yeah.
Wait a second.
Anyway, I digress.
Your dad is bald though, or doesn't?
My dad's bald, yeah.
So you got the good hair gene, I guess, from your mom's.
Yeah,
side.
my grandfather on my mom's side lived till he was 95. And still had red in his hair.
Oh, very good.
He still had a full head of hair, and it was still kind of red. Yeah, wild.
I forgot to do something last week. It was a small mistake when I listened back to the show last week. Small mistake. I apologize. But I do want to read a tweet that I retweeted. This is from Scott Bradley, who's the head coach of Princeton University. And before we start, I just want to address the Ivy League here for a second. People who made the decision to cancel the season for all spring sports and rob these athletes are cowards. They're sheep, and it has nothing to do with science. And you are power-hungry pricks who deserve the full karmic punishment coming your way, hopefully very soon. Now, with that said, Scott Bradley. Yeah. They canceled the season. What are they doing here? Jimmy Jackson, who's a friend of mine, coach at JMU. You're shaking your head. What's the matter?
No. It's awful. It's awful. I have 5 or 6 Ivy League players that I work with.
Well, Jimmy Jackson, who's the pitching coach at JMU, their season's getting going. So I just think it's just ridiculous.
Everybody's getting going.
Right, exactly. So Scott Bradley tweeted this about a week ago, and I love this, and I want to just read it, and I want to give it credit. He said, "For the love of the game, 2 exclamation points, less than 24 hours ago, the Ivy League canceled our league season. How did my players react? They came to practice in small groups, remained socially distant, and went to work. Amazing spirit. True passion, have never been more proud." And That had to do a little bit with our topic last week, makings of a great college hitter, and that has to do with college players and good for his players. Now, I don't know if they Ivy League teams, I'm sure, can play independently away from their conference, but to cancel league play, to me, still is it's robbing kids one way or the other. So, but anyway, I wanted to read that tweet because it was overdue, and I forgot to do it last week.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the Ivy League players will, still get to graduate from an Ivy League school, and they'll be just fine with their life. But the reason, many of the reasons they went to go to those universities because they wanted to play baseball,
right,
and that's your way into a lot of those universities, unless you get, a 35 out of 36 on your ACT and a perfect score on your SAT. The only way into the Ivies is athletically, and you still got to be really smart and get 32s, on your ACT, but you can at least have a chance to get in by being a good athlete. And for them to all of a sudden, so these are athletes first, like these are athletes that have worked their whole life. They get there and now they get a wonderful education as well as being able to play the sport they love. And to have that taken away by, I mean, I can only imagine the sweater cardigans that these people are wearing, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a big cardigan kind of guy. The dude wore a cardigan. I have cardigans.
I don't know what cardigan
is.
But
I can it's like a sweater, like a
nice
zip-up sweater. It's like a sweater that doesn't pull over. It has a...
Right.
I mean, have you not seen Dumb and Dumber? Pull over.
Oh, right.
And he says, no, it's a cardigan. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got you.
Anyway, I shouldn't put people into a box.
Well, I kind of just did, but for good reason.
You did. You let it go. This is good. I like working with you because,
I'm just saying
you can take the heat.
I'll take the heat. Who's going to yell at me? What are they going to say? Oh, well, you called out the truth. Yeah. Okay. What are they going to do? And okay. So we have a question here we'll get to before we get into our Manny Ramirez breakdown. Looking forward to. We got 2 video clips that we're doing today, breaking down the swing of Manny Ramirez. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast as well. New episodes, of course, every Monday at 9 a.m. Monday morning, 9 a.m. The show is on Apple, Google, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, the app, and Pandora. Our YouTube page up and running as well. The Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. And to follow along with this video breakdown today, log on to the Epstein Hitting Facebook page. Big announcement, too, coming up at the end of the show. Sort of big. It's good. It's a positive. I mean, we started off this program kind of weird. We went from positive to like medium in the middle, talking about beard and coloring.
I think for me, that's a positive.
Positive.
I mean, this whole like stuff I'm going to throw on my beard. My face is probably going to fall off.
And then I called out the Ivy League. Me, not Jake.
That was rough.
I called out the Ivy League, so that was negative, I guess. And now we're going back to the positive because we've got an announcement coming up at the end of the show. Small announcement, not huge. But
are you pregnant, Jim?
Yes. Our Mechanical Breakdown series, Volume 9, that is coming up. But first, a listener question. This is from David from New Hampshire. Comes to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. David writes, "Hi, Jim and Jake. I was wondering if Jim is pregnant. I stumbled upon your podcast a few weeks ago and love the content. I am eager to write in and engage with you guys. My question is for Jake in regards to finding the right hitting instructor." This is a great question. There's so much content out there right now and so many hitting gurus, in quotes. What proper research does a parent have to do to set their child up with the right instructor so they don't waste time and money? Thanks for answering my question. Have a great day. And that's from David from New Hampshire. Thank you, David.
What a great basic question, right? I mean, this is a very complex, great question that everyone should be asking. And that's a tough one. You have to meet your instructor. I mean, that's kind of number one. Like I always do an evaluation, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Like, this is what I do. Do you like me? Are we on the same page? What you need to work on? I'm going to show them video of what they're doing. Does it make sense to them? I would say, gosh, what did I see? Somebody, that was different. That was something I saw some guy get really violent about some travel program in West St. Louis. Anyway, we can get to that later. But you have to figure out, is there a connection between your son or daughter and that coach? Was it a good feeling? That's why you have to meet them, and you have to ask them, what do you teach? And this is for people that don't, for me, I'm fortunate that I've been doing it for so long, and I have a pretty good reputation that people don't ask those questions anymore. What is it that you teach? I tell them this is the most important, and this is why. So if you go to a place and there's just a lot of stuff, there's a lot of different gizmos, we got balls and we got, different kinds of bat. And don't get me wrong, there's a use for, like, we use camwood bats, to warm up our guys at the lab. We use, I'm trying to think what other kind of device we don't use a lot of devices, because devices, you can't take that device into the game. So if they're putting balls here, or there's different bungee cords to do this, that, and the other while you're trying to hit, I'm not sure that's going to carry over. So if you have somebody that has all these props, they might be using those props to teach instead of their own intellect and experience. So I would definitely have a conversation. That's number one, or do an evaluation. If you have to sign up for 10 lessons or something like that in the beginning, that might be a little weird. I always say, look, if you want to continue, then this is what we'll do next. I need you to do this work at home, so that we can speed up the process of you getting better. But if it's, something you want to do and put the time in, then we can look at another lesson. But, never pushy, like if you have somebody that's pushy, that's not a good thing. Now getting down to brass tacks of what do they teach? If they're teaching, to snap the barrel back, or they're big on teaching something with the hands and elbows, and look, I would probably steer away from that. I think that's going to cause more harm than good. There's a Division I program, softball program, that I'm not going to say what it is because I know their coach. And all of a sudden I saw them on Twitter doing all kinds of PVC drills and all those kind of trying to get the barrel down early, right? Trying to accelerate the barrel early. And I'm watching all these drills and I'm like, oh my Lord, like they've just taken the bait, and maybe they should, maybe the bait was good. And I'm like, they're not going to hit this year. Like, I don't think they're going to hit like they normally hit. And I mean, this is a top program. We'll just put it that way. Top program. They're, always ranked. We'll go there. And so I spoke to another college coach who I respect a lot in collegiate softball. And I said, have you seen this? And they said, yes. Notice how I pronoun that. I said they.
Sure.
I didn't say she or he. I said they. My kids are teaching me this. And I said, did you see this? He's like, yes. I can't. Oh, I said it. I said he, didn't I? She.
No. You said no. I didn't catch it.
They said they. You shouldn't do. They're going to really struggle. I'm like, there's no way they're going to hit any kind of velocity. Like, collegiate softball is fast, man. I mean, if you're playing D1 softball, like, nobody's thrown in the 50s. And the ball's not sinking that much. And sure enough, this team that is a typical powerhouse, they're scoring like 1 and 2 runs a game. And that's not necessarily in their conference yet. So, yes, mechanically, I would steer away from somebody that's teaching you to hit everything high and far at a young age. If you're a grown man and you're Justin Bauer, and you're 230 pounds and you hit the ball 110 miles an hour off a tee, go ahead and launch. But if you're a player that is normal size for the age, then you need to work on having a flatter swing plane, work hitting balls back through the middle off a tee. If you can do that consistently, like 9 out of 10 times, then your swing is probably pretty good. But how many kids out there off a tee can hit a ball back through the middle, off the back of the net, like you see Pujols and LeMahieu and all these guys doing in their tee work, and Yelich? How many of these kids can't do that? Like the players I'm working with at the lab, I see them all the time, and I'm like, can you No, they can't even come close to 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hit maybe 4 or 5, and then they'll all of a sudden launch, flare one to right or something. That ball's not even moving. So you have to have that kind of barrel control.
Yeah. And you mentioned too, something interesting there. If somebody, a coach, is using all these gadgets, the hitting coach, using all these different types of gadgets, PVC pipes and whatever's out there. I see noodles now too. People use noodles.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that, I don't want to call it a gadget or a gizmo, that monstrosity that somebody was standing on trying to hit a week ago on the show. Are they really reputable if they're using all of those gadgets? Do they really know what they're doing? That's the question I think as a parent you should be asking as well.
You got to figure out how much is too much. Like I use the blast sensor, but I don't use it all the time. I use it in the very beginning because I want to see what their barrel's doing. Are they dumping it early? Things that I can't see in video. This is going to tell me what the bat's doing. What's their attack angle average? Okay. Then once we go from that, I'm not going to sit there and do the blast every single swing after that, and that's what people do. And they don't get, enough quality reps. So what I do and my instructors, the certified guys that I train, what I teach them to do is, look, you isolate the swing, you evaluate. What is your swing? Okay, here is your swing. This is, you necessarily tell the player this, but this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, right? They have 3 issues. What is the most important of those 3 issues? Okay, maybe it's a bat drag, maybe it's they're stepping in the bucket, maybe it's their back foot, whatever it is. That's what I work on with them. I don't tell them all 3, I tell them the 1. Mm-hmm. And I say, this is what we're going to work on. And then for 25 minutes, we're going to just do isolation drills to work on that. And then piece all those isolation drills together. But we probably only worked on 1 simple move. Yeah. And that's what makes a good instructor. Because I've seen players guilty of this at all levels. I mean, player development levels in Major League Baseball, college, even like at the lab where we have players that come in and we work with them, but they need that specialty. They need to do that side work at home to actually get better, where they're getting better, but they're getting better every 6 months. I don't want to see that. I want to see you getting better every week. Right. And so if you have a plan and you have a personal instructor that can help you with that, that's when you have a good one. When you're seeing incremental changes every single week versus somebody that's like, okay, we're just going to try to build bat speed here.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
right.
Bat speed's like the last thing that I worry about. Once everything is in place and it's repeatable and it's consistent, then it's like, okay, now let's see if we can get some more juice out of it.
Right. Right.
But if they're concentrating on bat speed the first time, then I'd probably run away from that person.
We could talk about this all day. I don't want to keep going on about it. One more question I do have, though, and I think this is important to David's question, and this might help answer this another question as well, because in today's world, with Zoom and doing everything online, doing everything remotely, how do you feel that connection with a coach, a hitting instructor that you may want your son or daughter to work with? How do you get that connection remotely? How do you get it over Zoom? How do you get it over the phone? What are some telltale signs that you may look for, or things that you use to make that connection and make people feel more comfortable with working with you over the phone?
Yeah, I mean, it's the individual person. I'm a very likable human being.
Agreed. Yes.
At least that's what I tell people.
I'm smiling because you're smiling.
My wife.
I mean it.
Tell my wife.
Yes.
No, you just know. Like I mean, there's it's like you go to a team function, right? Hey, we got a new team. We just had my daughter's 10-year-old softball team, right? We met the new team the other day and went out there, and it's like, okay, there's a bunch of parents. I can see myself hanging out with that person. Like, it seems like a person. And then this person's like, oh, that person's weird. Like, I'm not going to hang out. Like, it's the same thing that you're going to have with a hitting coach. For me, so much of the content on the internet is not personal. I mean, that's why we built the platform that we're on, is because it is personal. I'm talking to you based on what you're doing and your swing, and you're following along because it's in the telestrator. Okay. Versus somebody out there that just has a big library of content. Here's a bunch of drills to do. Well, which ones do I need to do? Like, should I just do all of them? And then all of a sudden there's no checks and balances. Okay, I'm going to do all these drills. I have no idea if I'm doing them right. So with mine, like I tell you after your first video, send me a video doing your drills next week. I want a video you doing each of the drills I assign to you, because if you're doing them wrong, we're wasting time. Make sure you send them back promptly during your next video upload. Boom, they send me that. I'm like, okay, it's pretty good, but it needs to be better. The front knee needs to do this. The back shoulder needs to do this. Make sure your grip is correct, blah, blah, blah. And that's really the best way to create a relationship online, is to have back and forth feedback versus just downloading drills. Like drills, some drills are great, right? And you can do them and get better with rhythm. And but it's got to be for you. Like, what do you need to be successful?
Yeah. Well, David, great question. Thank you very much for that. And if you have questions, anybody, please email us, or criticisms or comments, whatever. Or if you have life questions, we'll answer those as well. Jimbo Podcast 21, beard questions, hair questions, face questions, fitness questions. Bingo. Jimbo Podcast 21 at gmail.com. Speaking of online stuff, we'll take a quick break here. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Manny Ramirez swing. But first, I logged on to the labbcs.com this week. I always do, as you know. And I saw some good stuff. So what's going on? I'm not going to tell people, though. I'm going to let you know, because this is your break. I want you to do it, because you know better than I do what's going on at the lab. BCS at the lab in College Station, Texas.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm back in Denver, and I had my lab hat on. I went and gave a lesson to one of my players here. I snuck him in. He had a half day of school, because school's all weird. And he's like, buddy, when are you going to open a lab in Colorado? Come on, man. You need to get it going. So new stuff at the lab. We kind of opened up a new cage and some new reps. Now in the season, we've shuffled some stations around to get players some more reps, live reps, because the high school season's starting. Travel ball down there is starting. In fact, as we were on the phone, I just got a video from a coach about one of our students, his first at bat of the season, and he went yard. Oh, he kind of pimped it. So a shout out to one of our for Brett Basham, longtime student, like a year long. He's been in there. He's 12 years old and went ball out in his first at bat. And Brett's a guy that we're constantly telling, dude, you need to flatten it out a little bit. Don't swing up so much. And so we flattened him out a lot. He was like a 20-degree attack angle guy. We're getting him closer to 10 to 15. Hey, just because I told you to swing down more doesn't mean you can't hit jacks, right? And he just did it. So what's happening in the lab? We're prepping. It's season prep time, right? So we're cranking the velocity. We're putting more breaking balls and changeups in there. We're getting players ready for competition.
Very good. All right. So for more information, there's, of course, clinics, camps, and whatnot. And for one-on-one instruction, log on to the labbcs.com. Things are thawing out in Texas, thank God. Our thoughts and prayers are with our Texas listeners. We have a lot of people in Texas listening. We do. College Station, really across that beautiful state. It is a beautiful state. Everything is bigger in Texas. Did you know that?
I did. I've heard that, especially the shot glasses. Where do you see the Texas
and the
shot
beer
glasses
too? Yeah, which I'm not a big drinker, but that's something.
Texas is a great state. It's funny. A lot of Californians are moving to Texas. As I heard on my latest podcast, I told you I was listening to Rogan,
right,
about the glasses. Well, he was interviewing Elon Musk, who I think me and you were going to have him on next week, but he was busy. He was busy shooting up another rocket here in Florida. He was, yes, he was a rocket, and he couldn't make it. So I was talking, and they're both talking about California, and they're like, Austin, just please don't turn Austin into Los Angeles. That's their right, or San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco. They're offense to our California listeners. But just keep it. Yeah, keep Austin weird. Austin's a great place. Slogan, especially for young people. Yeah. I was going to say something else, but so wait a second. So this is what I was going to say. So I'm getting at that you listen to Rogan's podcast, and us. Those are the only two. Okay, I was going to say, because I listen to our podcast at least minimum twice a week, because that's what we're listening to it now. We're listening to each other do it. Yeah. But then I listen. I always put it on to see where I can get better. And I listen back. I listen in post-production as well. So I listen to the whole show in post-production. Then sometimes I'll put it on in the car in the morning when I'm not listening to another podcast that I just got turned on to recently. We're giving it a plug, Unsolved Murders.
It's like giving that a little plug. It's good.
Nice.
All right. Anyway, stop babbling here. We're talking about Manny Ramirez. We're just on babbling. Episode 44 of the Lav Epstein Hitting Podcast, our Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 9. And we're not just talking about Manny Ramirez. We're breaking down the swing of Manny Ramirez. And just a reminder to watch this breakdown with audio on the Epstein Hitting Facebook page if you want to do both. Watch a video and listen to it at the same time. Or you just want to listen in your car, you can hopefully paint a good enough picture. Manny Ramirez, born on May 30th, 1972. So he's 48 years old as we record this today. 12-time All-Star, 9-time Silver Slugger, World Series champion twice with the Boston Red Sox as a Major League Baseball player. For his career, he hit .312, 555 home runs, 1,831 RBIs, 585 slugging, 996 OPS. Do you think, as you're looking at me right now, do you think I have all those numbers memorized?
Yeah, absolutely you do, Jim.
I do. One of the best hitters all time, Manny Ramirez, unquestionably. Now, when I was younger, I may have talked to you about this. When I was younger, I used to watch games just to watch some of the best hitters throughout baseball. I didn't really necessarily watch it for the strategy. I watch baseball now a lot for the strategy. But I used to watch just to watch some of the best hitters in the league and to see what they were doing, and I would try to emulate that. Wasn't successful at it, but I tried. Now, the guy on the top of the list that I used to love to watch when baseball, what you call it? Baseball on ESPN. It's Baseball Tonight would come on. It's before the MLB Network now. Baseball Tonight would come on, and I would just look forward to seeing David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and watching them hit home runs that night, what the highlights would be, single, double, home run, whatever. I loved watching Manny Ramirez hit. He was on the top of that list of the guys that I would love to just see what they did mechanically. And there were some questions that I had, too, that I didn't know, that I do now, that I didn't know what he was doing, what made him successful. But he is right there on the top of the list.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Manny could probably still hit, but he was smart. You know, he had great mechanics, and he was quick, and he was powerful, but he was smart. Like I know he may not have known what the count was. You said, we touched up on that, but he knew what he was looking for. So I'm going to dive in here. I'm going to try not to lose you.
Okay.
Because I need the audio. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. By the way, one of the most enjoyable experiences for somebody like me.
So the only bad part is I can't hear you. What about now?
I can still hear you. I still hear you in my ear. Do you still hear me?
And I can hear you. So
no, are you lying to me? You're lying to me. You're not.
This is the best you've sounded ever. Okay, so
silence. Radio silence.
We're gonna get into Manny. So we'll put this annotation on the Epstein Online Academy YouTube page, and also the
Epstein Hitting
podcast, the YouTube, right?
We could do that. We could put it on the Lab Epstein Hitting Facebook page or the YouTube page. But we got it. We're good. We got this.
So it'll be out there. Okay, so I'm gonna get going. So Jim, just so you kind of know what's going on, I have both swings up. So we're gonna start with the swing on the left is Manny hitting a pitch middle away that he's totally cheating on, and we know he's cheating because he dives more on this pitch.
Sorry, I don't. Is this from the open view?
The front view, the front view. Pitcher's view. Yep. Got it. So you can see how much he's closed off with his stride. So if we were to draw a line from his back toe to his front toe, you can see that toe line is facing like the second baseman. So he's trying to keep everything closed as much as possible. You can see his upper body, his chest is closed, his hips are still very closed here. Even when we bring him to heel plant, which most people will really fly that front hip open, it opens a little bit, but it's not like crazy opening, right? It's not, everybody is so concerned about pelvic tilt and opening the hips and creating as much separation as possible. I'm telling you, like, it is important, but it's so much more important to find a barrel. Yeah, it really is. Like, I can't emphasize that enough, that athletes are going to move this way. Like, hitters from the beginning of time have created separation. I remember my dad's first VHS tape in the late 90s. He brought everybody to a torque position. He brought Babe Ruth to the torque position where his front hip opened before his hands came through. He brought Willie Mays and DiMaggio and Hank Aaron and every possible Hall of Famer you could think of, even Ken Griffey, who was still playing in that same position, were they taught, hey, I need you to try to open up your front hip? No, it's a very athletic move that 95% of players will do naturally if they're same-sided, meaning Manny was a right-handed thrower and he's a right-handed hitter. The only time I don't see that is with a left-handed hitter that's a right-handed thrower. Then it's not natural. But it's a very natural athletic position. That, I mean, if you took a hockey player or a football player, or, well, I shouldn't say a football player, not a basketball player, but a hockey player,
quarterback in football. If you're talking about torque, yeah,
somebody that throws, or I don't know, I forgot, a golfer, and you had them hit, like they would get into that position. Now their arms probably wouldn't be very good because they don't know how to control the bat, but their legs would work properly, like guaranteed they would work properly. So again, don't overteach something that a player probably does naturally. If you try to get an extra 3 to 5 degrees of torque or separation between your upper and lower half, it's not going to make that player a Hall of Famer. They're not going to hit the ball 20 feet further or 30 feet further or 50 feet further. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So let them stay within their limits of what their body will do. We'll look at both of these. Manny Ramirez hit balls further and harder than most players, and he has a decent amount of torque. In fact, if we look at the side view where I have it stopped right now with Manny, he looks almost identical to Correa, who's a 28, 25 to 30 degree separation guy. He's not a 40 degree separation guy. Okay. So anyway, this is what made Manny such a good opposite field hitter is he could stay closed for a really long time. So then as he goes through, notice how his hip and his back elbow are kind of going at the same time. Okay, he's not leaving his hands back. And as he comes to approach this, you can see the barrel stays above the hands until the last second. There's his approach position. Boom, then the barrel drops underneath his hands. And as he hits this ball to right field, notice where his hips are facing. Okay, so if you bring him to contact, his hips are facing almost where he's hitting this ball, which is right center field. Okay. Now, what I see with most players that don't use their hands very well, right? They over rotate, they spin their hips. Yeah. What happens is this belt buckle would be facing the shortstop side. If the hands were facing right center field, they would slice across that ball and they would hit a flare to right field. So going a little bit further with Manny, look at when he releases that right hand and extends into his power V. Notice how his power V is to the right side of the camera here. It's to the right of the pitcher. That is so very good on pitches middle away. And Manny he cheated middle away all the time. Like he'd cheat middle away. He would cheat off speed pitches all the time. He knew what he was looking for. And because his mechanics were good, he didn't miss it. That's why mechanics are important. Yeah. Because it makes your barrel plane consistent. It makes your ability to find a barrel in the contact zone more consistent. So then all of a sudden, if you're smart and you know what the pitcher is trying to do to you and you have a plan, then all of a sudden you can put those mechanics to use. But good mechanics without a plan, well, that doesn't, you just look good in BP. That doesn't show up. That doesn't show up in games.
Did he look middle away because he was so quick in and he knew he was never going to get beat on an inside pitch?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Or did he just, in certain situations and counts, he just cheated away?
Right.
Yeah, so what I would see with Manny a lot is he would look a certain pitch and then he would take anything else. So if he was looking breaking ball and they threw him a fastball middle or middle in, he wouldn't even swing at it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But even if that breaking ball wasn't the hanger, even if it was on the corner, he was so locked in looking for that pitch that he was still able to get barrel on it.
Sure.
That's what made him so good. Like he didn't, if you're looking for a fastball and somebody hangs a breaking ball, you're going to hit it good.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a fastball and somebody throws a decent breaking ball that is on the quarters, the outer fourth or the inner fourth, you're not going to hit it. Mm-hmm. But if you're cheating on that breaking ball because whatever, you hit a fastball really hard your last at bat, and then they throw that breaking ball on the outer channel or the inner channel, you can still hit it successfully. Yeah. And that's the making of a good hitter, smart hitter. So if we go to, and again, one of the things that is overly taught now is your spine angle, right? Being perpendicular to your bat angle. Okay. Like, it happens. I mean, I've been talking about that for like, how long have I been teaching and using video? Since like 20 years. And I've never once taught a person, hey, I need you to like tilt in to drop your barrel a little bit. But this is taught so much, that turn, that what happens is, instead of the spine being there, what happens is it ends up being, the shoulders end up being like that. The spine ends up being like that. And then all of a sudden the barrel's down here like this, and they'll cut across it too much. Okay. Sure. So that's why you're seeing so many pitches nowadays thrown up here, because now all of a sudden everybody's been taught to lean in with their spine. They can't get their spine and keep their posture like this. And that's really the making of a good high ball hitter and a low ball hitter. Low ball hitters typically lean in more and drop their back shoulder more. High ball hitters don't. Like Correa doesn't do that very much, where a guy like Springer drops his back shoulder more. And that's why Springer hits the pitch down better than he hits the pitch up. Okay. And that's what everybody needs to know. Springer needs to know that. He ain't going to get pitched down here on purpose, right? Like they're going to try to get him out here at the belly button, and he'll have to make an adjustment to do that. And when guys can cover both, like this dude, Bonds, I mean, everybody think Bonds, this home run hitter, Bonds hit pitches up really well. Yeah. His top hand was really strong, and he was able to keep his bat head flat. Yeah. But when you can do both, now all of a sudden you'd be a Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, Manny's not. Manny has the stats to be a Hall of Famer, but he didn't have the natural remedies.
Yeah, according to some. Well, so did Bonds too, by the way.
According to some.
Yeah, Bonds also has the numbers too. One of the best of all time. That's been robbed of the Hall of Fame over and over again. So, but anyway,
still got to get that barrel in the right spot.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that, illegal substances, they do certain things, right? They make you stronger. They make you recover faster.
Yeah.
Most importantly, I think they keep you from being injured. And I think that's what helped, athletes play longer. And when you play longer, what do? You hit more home runs.
Yeah. But those perform. I think this is what you're alluding to. I'm looking at his swing here. Those performance enhancing drugs don't make him as fundamentally sound as he is. That's repetition after repetition after repetition. That's thousands of hours of him and Bonds, but talking with Manny today, that's thousands of hours of repetitions to get it right. That there's no drug in the world that'll magically make your body or muscle memory get into the proper place to be able to do what he did.
No, maybe it makes him 1/100th of a second quicker to the ball. Yeah. So he can see the ball a little bit further, it makes him play through injuries, but absolutely it doesn't, as far as I know, and I'm not a doctor, but I don't think it makes your vision any better. I'm not sure if it makes your brain clarity stronger or if it increases your intelligence, but you can hit. There's a lot of guys, countless guys that I played with in the minor leagues that were on steroids, and they didn't make it anywhere. Yeah. So it wasn't like a super drug. All right. So let's go back to, now we're going to go look at Manny from the side. Okay. And the reason I chose this is because, and I know he did play for the Rays, but he's playing at Tropicana Field at the time. Yeah. Okay. We can see that in the background. But if you watch him, it's just so simple. He gets to his launch position right about here. And I know we can't see his feet quite yet. But if you look here, his chest is facing back here. And, his belt is facing here. So if we were to put a torque angle on that, this isn't going to be a huge number, of separation here. If I go perpendicular to his hips, he's low 30s at best. Okay. If we go perpendicular to his hip line, which I'm pretty sure I did, hip to hip, pretty close. So he's probably 30 to 33 degrees of separation. Okay. And then as he rotates through, here's what's so great is his eyes stay level. But again, we've looked at this with all the players. This is the hard part with amateurs, is that when they rotate, they throw the bat away from the head, right? If you were to snap the barrel, that barrel is going to be back here. It's not going to be up here next to his ear. This is a perfect position. This is what we call, all my instructors, we try to speak the same language. We call this the short approach. It's kind of between these two frames. The short approach is when the upper body faces the front foot. So we've started to rotate. Yeah. Where are the hands? Look how far out in front his hands are already. The knob of the bat is like his pec. His back elbow hasn't even hit his ribs yet. That is what makes players consistent and on plane for a long time.
I was just going to remark about how tight his turn is. Sorry, but his turn is so tight.
Yeah. And it's efficient. And he didn't leave his hands behind. He didn't manipulate his hands rearward. He just kind of turned briefly his elbows from the top. Okay. Now his hands are moving faster, or his arms are moving faster than his chest here. So he's using his hands to pull his hands forward, but he's not casting. He's not throwing that barrel down to the pitch plane.
Yeah.
Okay. He's probably not going to get to the pitch plane if I continue to bring him through, until most of the time I like to get guys on plane at about there, right before their front knee. So I'm going to draw a line on the blur of the ball coming in. And then I'm going to put an angle on that because this camera angle is really good. So this will tell us what the pitch plane is.
Yeah, I think this is a long video. Yeah,
this is a long time ago. Okay, this isn't like last year where people have super duper high spin rates, but it says 5 degrees. I'll redraw it so we can see it on the screen. It's only a 5-degree downslope. So if you swing up at 20, right, and the ball's only coming in at 5, you're not going to have a huge contact point. So ideally, you'd like to be 5 for the most part. Okay, 5 to 10, 5 to 15 at the most. But if you don't know how to be at 5, then we're not going to have very good success. And you can see he extended through that pitch plane pretty well. He probably could have stayed on plane a little bit longer, but notice his extension. Like that power V on the one on the right, we'll go one more frame. You can see how much more it's to the left, right? When he gets fully extended, both arms are fully extended. It's higher and it's more to the left, where if we look at the power V on the outside pitch, notice how it's low and to the right. If your power V looks the same on pitches in and away, you're not hitting pitches away very well. You're slicing across those. You're hitting a lot of high fly balls to right field that aren't going to carry, or a lot of foul balls. So this is a really cool comparison, because one, he's really cheating, hitting the ball the other way. And the other one's middle in that he's turning on and hitting. Actually, he didn't hit this one. Oh, it was left center. This one on the right was left center. So he did pull it, but it wasn't like it was pulled down the line, which makes sense because he makes contact about right here at his front foot. Okay, so it wasn't like he was super early on it, but he hit it to left center field really far. And that's why his extension is more to the left. So really important to kind of understand, we don't see the move here with Manny on the front view. If I bring him back to when he launches the swing, look how vertical his bat is here. He would have a very bad plane score. So we talk about blast motion, which I use a ton of, but I use the raw numbers. I don't use their different scores. And the reason I don't use their different scores is in this position, they want the bat to be perpendicular to the spine.
Yeah.
And if it's not at launch, this would be called early connection. If it's not, you get a really bad score. Yeah. So Manny would look at his blast and be like, oh, I got a red mark.
Yeah.
Right. Like my connection, my early connection wasn't very good. Okay. Now maybe my late connection was good. Okay. But my early connection wasn't good. So a lot of times those devices, we have to know how to use them. But if you're keeping that barrel up and you're not laying it off, you're keeping that barrel very vertical, sometimes you might get bad scores. So that's why I always tell players, if you're using technology, I always say, talk to me. I'll tell you what numbers, and that's the big part of my coaches training is, look, we have all this technology. These are the numbers you want to look at. And that's just from experience. It's from, I've been doing this a long time and I know what's important and what's not. Let's spend time on this number, and this number, and not worry about the other different scores, because the same as with K-Vest. We talked about K-Vest and other people that aren't in sequence, right? Instead of their hips reaching maximum speed first, and then their torso reaching maximum speed second, their upper arm third, and their hand fourth. They're like, hips, hands, then shoulders. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that person is a major league all-star. Like most big leaguers are like that.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to teach it like golf, which most people try to do when they look at the numbers, then all of a sudden they'll get players that start spinning and not using their hands enough. And again, maybe you look really good in this computer program, but you don't look good on the field. I want you to look good on the field.
That's like where it counts.
Who hit a home run. I got a text from the coach. They're in the middle of the game. One of the other kids, Max's dad, helps us at the lab. Caleb Dickinson, he hit a home run too in the first inning. I mean, these kids are killing it because we prepare them the right way. Mm-hmm. We're not uber concerned about, hey, now some people are, oh, don't you think their barrel should be here, that, and the other?
Yeah.
Maybe, but I want them to do good on the field. That's all I care about, results on the field.
I'm at a point with Manny Ramirez on the video here to my left. It's the open view side, and I stopped it at the point of contact when you were drawing the line. What can you tell from the point of contact where he is? What can you tell the audience about the leverage that he's generating right there in that position? Firm front side and hips have cleared. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about his leverage right there?
Yeah, so we're talking about this here, just making sure everybody heard Jim. At this point of contact here, what are we seeing? Like his leverage. So one of the things you want to see is his front side is firm but not locked yet. If you go a frame or two later, it will lock out. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other thing is if you bring him to contact and you go one frame before, notice the angle of his right arm. This is a real issue that players have. I was working with a player yesterday with this. So before contact, the angle of his right arm is 100 and roughly 9-10 degrees. At contact, the frame later, it went from 109 mm-hmm. to 126. And then one frame after contact, it went from 126 to 145. What does that mean? He's extending through the ball. Yeah. Okay. So many people are taught, keep the elbow tucked to the ribs and have a power L and you just spin off and rotate. Okay. Yeah. So he's extending through the ball with his right arm. What does that do? That keeps our chest from over rotating. So if we also look at this position, things that I look for is, can I see Boston written on his chest? Yes. With so many young players, they've over rotated so much with their body that their shoulders are on an angle like this. Their chest might be facing like the left field line, but their bat is facing center field. And that's a real problem with young players. So that's something that I look for as well. But yeah, it's a wonderful position. Like this is a textbook position. His back shin is down. If we draw this line, it's at his kneecap. Sometimes I like it a little bit lower than that, but he's pretty close there. He's not holding any weight on his backside, but he's not lunging. So there's no weight on his back foot. His back foot's totally vertical, but his spine angle is rearward. So his weight will be back right there when he finishes rotating fast. So he's rotating back behind the ball. He had a weight transfer forward, then he rotated. He took that forward energy and turned it into rotational velocity, and he did it by tilting rearward. And then at the end of the swing, his weight ends up back. It was just a perfect swing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Another question I had, though, I want to go back to the front view swing on the outside pitch. This is when he was with the Dodgers, by the way. The question I had, what does he do a bat? Does he have a bat tip in his load with his hands? What's he doing with his wrists there in his load? Is it some kind of bat tip or what? He's doing something there. Because his hands aren't still, the barrel's not still. What's he doing there? It's not a full bat tip, though, like Ted Williams used to do.
No, he does. He just kind of brings it vertical. But I think if we really break that down, watch his elbows as he does it. So it's not just a hand snap. So if I mark this elbow and we kind of watch his back, he's actually loading his shoulder. So as he loads his back shoulder up, notice how the bat goes up.
And the front shoulders going down.
And the front shoulders going down. So you can see how much the tilt in his shoulders changed. And then that was probably, his bat was probably a couple degrees back here. So it was more of a shoulder kind of move when he loaded his body. Then all of a sudden, he'll drop his hands down and through and pull the knob outside. So when people talk about knob to the ball, that was a common phrase that kind of seemed, well, every big leaguer said it, every hitting coach said it. But then all of a sudden it got debunked because it's like, why would you want to hit the knob with the ball, right? Like you want to hit the ball with the barrel. But if you look at this frame here on the left, notice how he pulls that ball. That knob isn't going towards the third baseman.
Yeah.
That knob's going towards the second baseman. Then it goes towards the ball. It's kind of looking out here somewhere. I mean, that frame there where his knob is facing the ball. Then as he rotates his body, then that knob gets out of the way. But quite honestly, knob to the ball right away when your front foot lands and you first start to swing is a good cue if it's explained correctly. Mm-hmm. Then as we rotate, then that knob turns left to release the barrel. But if you always pull the knob left and keep that left wrist and left arm close to the body instead of getting that left arm out in front and maybe even out in front towards the pitcher or towards the opposite handed, for Manny towards the second baseman side, for you being a lefty towards the shortstop side, that frisbee move, which we've talked about, that sets up whip. That sets up a lot of whip. And if we don't create whip, then we need to find energy somewhere else. And sometimes that's by spinning the body more or trying to rotate faster, which can be good and can be bad, right? Sometimes if we just think about turning and rotating, then all of a sudden we just have one swing. Yeah, that's not adjustable. We just kind of twist and hopefully our timing's right.
When does his torque initiate here? Because it's kind of tough to see frame by frame because the foot leg kick and the foot lands, the heel plants.
It's right at heel plant. If we look at his, toe touch, his front hip is totally closed at toe touch, but as he drops his heel, you'll watch his not his pocket, but the belt loop go behind that mark that I made. And that's really the torque that is created right there at heel plant. You can see his front foot's very closed here.
Yeah.
See how closed it is? Because he's
closed on the open view
other
too.
Way. Is it? Yeah. It's
a little bit. I guess maybe I'm nitpicking.
I don't think it's closed that much. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's probably like 40 degrees. 90 would be facing the pitcher.
And how about his bat lag too? I mean, he releases the barrel early on this outside pitch.
Yeah, he gets the knob out in front, and then he's got to throw that barrel to right field. So you definitely have to throw the barrel away from your body sooner on an outside pitch because that creates our contact point. So we can cover more pitch by releasing the barrel early. But if I stop you here right after contact, and then I say, what if this pitch was inside? Mm-hmm. And I draw a line up. Oh my God, he would have broken his thumb.
Yeah.
Right thumb,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So could he have hit this ball there? Well, he would have to hit it there, and that would be totally foul. Okay. If he did hit that inside pitch there. So it's a different move. That pitch outside, you pull that knob more to right field. Mm-hmm. On a pitch inside, you're going to turn the knob more and then release it later. So this is all my instructors that are listening. This is our exits on the freeway. This is how we exit different parts of the swing to cover different pitches. Mm-hmm. I won't go into that because that's like a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. Another question I had though, this guy throughout his career has had just flawless mechanics, and throughout the season, 162 games, however many games he used to play on average, seems like he always had these just flawless mechanics. He was so repeatable on every contact point, every pitch that he hit. How did he do it? How did he was it lack of thinking? Was it just letting it be, just freely going about it? What made him so consistent with his mechanics that in turn made him such a consistent hitter?
I think Manny worked on, and I don't know. I mean, this is just me guessing. I didn't spend time. I wasn't the hitting coach for any of the teams that he played on, and I didn't share a locker with him. So, I'm just speculating here. But to me, Manny wasn't a guy that really thought too much what his body was doing. I think he just tried to find a barrel, and he would set the tee up middle away, or the machine up middle away, or somebody would throw him front toss middle away, and he would just hit there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you would, he'd say, okay, I'm going to work middle in. And I think his body, because his mechanics were good, naturally got there. I don't think Manny ever, Manny's like a lot of I know he grew up, I don't know. I think it was the Bronx. I don't know if he was born in the,
right.
I don't know if he was born in the Bronx or just grew up there, but he's very much like the international players that I look at that have great mechanics when they're 14.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of develop into this more powerful human being with these same mechanics.
Yeah.
By practicing pitch locations and tee work versus, hey, you know what you should do is try this move with your hands, or snap your elbow underneath, or lift this elbow here, or turn your hips faster. I think it was just a slow progression of him developing into a bigger person, stronger person. I mean, even when he was a kid with Cleveland, he had the same exact swing.
Yeah.
Like he really did. His swing never changed. You look at somebody like the guy for the Red Sox now, JD Martinez, right? I saw him doing some weird thing on Twitter with one of his coaches where they're trying to resist his hips, right? They're trying to, and I'm like, what? Like that guy tinkers way too much. And you know what happens when you tinker too much? You have a great season, and then you have a bad season, and then you have a great season, and you have a bad season. And I hope he has a great season this year. But you can't, I don't think Manny was a tinkerer.
No, either was David Ortiz, by the way. Wasn't really tinkering much,
No.
Yeah, some of the best hitters from that era they didn't tinker too much. I remember a story when Jeter really struggled in 2010. That year he really struggled.
Yeah, it was because he took a stride away. Right,
and they tinkered too much. And then he said, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before and not think as much, and he started hitting again.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very leery. I'm very leery on certain data points, certain analytics, too much reliance on such, and too much reliance on drills. And the gadget that you're talking about with JD Martinez, I saw that as well. And I didn't really understand too much of the purpose of it.
I'm
very leery towards that.
So he's a K-Vest guy, and he's the one that is not in sequence. But what you do is if you resist your hip, then essentially it increases your upper body speed.
Yeah.
So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to accelerate his hips fast, and then he's trying to decelerate them fast. And if you do that, you will create more energy. Again, it's baseball. It's not golf. Like we can create more energy. What's he going to hit the ball 5 feet further?
Right.
Like he already hits the ball 400 feet, 450. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Maybe this could, and maybe it'll make him great. It's not going to make him great, but maybe it works for him and whatever. But he's a tinkerer. You see all kinds of clips with JD Martinez. Oh yeah, I want to feel this, or I want to feel this. Sometimes you see him like trying to swing down more. Sometimes you see him dropping his shoulder more to swing up more. And I'm like, that's a guy that's too much. Now, if you look at somebody like Justin Turner, that's I don't know if I would call that a swing change. That's a guy who needed to change his career.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
But that was a rhythm and timing change.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a mechanical change where he changed what he was doing with his hands and his elbows and swinging up or down more. You won't hear him say, "Oh, I'm swinging up more." You'll hear him say, "I'm trying to hit the ball in the air more." Okay. How is he doing that? He might not know how he's doing it.
Yeah.
He's just trying to hit the bottom of the ball.
Yeah.
And then how does he get to the bottom of the ball? Well, fortunately for him, it worked.
Yeah.
The best thing I love about Justin Turner is the fact he went to Fullerton. No, I'm just kidding. But he says, I try to hit the ball in the air more, but I try to hit it out in front.
Yeah.
Now that's the key. Anybody can hit the ball in the air if they're late. You can drop your barrel a ton and just hit fly balls to the opposite field. But when you pull balls, typically guys that drop their barrel early, when they pull balls, they top spin it.
Yeah.
So it's in the ground or it's a low line drive. So he's finding a way to hit it out in front and hit the bottom of it consistently. Do that off the tee a couple hundred times, and all of a sudden you'll kind of figure out a good swing plan. And the only way to hit a ball out in front in the air is to not drop your barrel too early deep in the zone.
What do you think Manny Ramirez, as we wrap this up, what do you think his legacy will be?
Manny being Manny.
Yeah.
I was going through videos to pull for this episode, and there were so many like pictures of him laughing and smiling with his teammates and with fans. We talked about the other day, there was that thing on Twitter or Instagram where he was in Australia. I don't know. Is he playing in the Australian Winter League?
He was. Probably. He got released.
Still,
yeah.
Right.
Got released.
Yeah. So he's down there and some guy's got a Red Sox hat and he says, "Oh, you like the Red Sox?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, man, just leave me alone." And he didn't even know who he was. It's just Manny Ramirez, like trying to be funny, right? To somebody in another country that's supposed to be a big Red Sox fan. Here's a guy that was, an all-star every year. So I think that's his legacy, and really a first-rate hitter. Honestly, I mean, he was a guy that he could pull an inside pitch down the line and keep it fair. He could take a pitch on the outside corner and hit a home run down the right field line. Like he covered everything, but he covered everything because he had very good control of his barrel. He had good hands and good mechanics, but he also, more importantly, he had a plan. Yeah. You can't look for a ball middle in to turn on and hit over the green monster and also cover a ball on the outside corner. You just can't do both of those. Yeah. So he could decipher what he wanted to look for and what he was committing to, and he wouldn't stray from that plan. And then obviously he had the mechanics where he wasn't going to foul that off. You can have a great plan, but if you have bad mechanics, that plan doesn't ever come to fruition, right? Hey, I'm looking middle away. I'm going to let this ball travel a little bit. And then all of a sudden you have a barrel drop and you foul off that pitch middle away. Well, now you're 0-1, right? Manny would have hit that ball and he would have never gotten to 0-1 or whatever it was. So now all of a sudden, maybe you got to change your plan.
Yeah.
But if you have a plan and you have mechanics and all of a sudden you execute your plan, then all of a sudden you don't have to change it every at bat, or I shouldn't say it. You don't have to change it during the at bat because you took advantage of that one pitch that you were looking for in the location and the speed. And now all of a sudden you're on the base. You're on the bases.
Yeah, I think when people say Manny being Manny, they get confused with him just freelancing nonchalantly, playing the game day in and day out. Maybe he did that in the outfield, but at the plate, it was a lot different. At the plate, you hit it right on nail on the head. That he had a true plan up there, and he tried to execute that plan every single time.
Yeah, I love. Like I said, I was looking through these videos. I don't know if you remember when he relayed, like the center field.
Right, it was Johnny Damon because Johnny Damon had such a weak arm, so he stepped in front of the relay throw. Yeah, I do remember that
for the relay. Yes, but that is. I mean, he was aloof and
in the outfield.
In the outfield. But boy, was he was all business in the box.
Yeah. Don't forget.
I also saw a home run that he pimped. This is a pretty good pimp job. He hit it to straightaway right, kind of by the maybe 10, 20 feet inside the pesky pole.
Yeah.
A curveball low and away. He hit it. He knew he smoked it. He was undoing his batting gloves in as he let go of the bat. So instead of a bat flip, he just dropped the bat, took his batting gloves off in the box, and then started running. Yeah. Never seen that one before. I didn't remember it.
Yeah. There was one pimp job that David Ortiz did. Oh, this was actually, I was at this game. This was in Philadelphia, long time ago, about 16 years ago. He hit a home run so deep to right that he literally flipped the bat towards the third base side dugout and then started running. He didn't drop it. He flipped it. He knew it. He just flipped the bat towards the third base side dugout and said, "Yep, I got all that one." I think it landed in the second deck.
That's right. Yeah, you just got to make sure it lands in the second deck.
Right.
Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. Of course, new episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. The show available on Apple, Google, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, the app, and Pandora. And our big announcement, of course, on April 12th, our first video episode will be uploaded to our YouTube page where you can see us actually doing the show on April 12th and then, of course, beyond. You can actually watch the show on YouTube. That'll be out 9 a.m. with the audio. The audio is not going anywhere on Apple and Google, Spotify, etc. But you're going to be able to watch us do the show on YouTube video, and you can see our our lovely faces, our facial expressions, and all that good, happy horse shit.
Well,
Happy
just
horseshit.
imagine how dark my beard is going to be. That is I got
That's
till
right.
April 12th to master this makeup you're talking
Well,
about.
we got what is it? More than a month to get prepared. And it'll be on our YouTube page.
Maybe I should have a start, and then every week I'll just go a little bit darker, and then we can have the fans see what looks better.
Well, that'll be on April 12th on our YouTube page, The Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, which, by the way, has full episodes that are archived and episode clips as well that are also archived on there too. So the audio is not going anywhere, but we're going to step it up a little bit here and put our show on YouTube, and you can actually watch us do the show. And if you have time, you can watch us actually talk to each other pretty much over our YouTube page. There you go.
That's it.
Yes. And follow us on social media too, at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting, both Twitter and Instagram. And if you have any questions, JimboPodcast21 at gmail.com. And by the way, one more reminder, if you have gone back in the archives or go back into the archives and want to re-listen to our mechanical breakdown series like today, you can listen to those episodes on all the audio platforms and follow along with the analysis as well on the Epstein Hitting Facebook page. Next week, our discussion turns to hitting myths and farces. We kind of did an overrated and underrated segment earlier in the show, and that'll be a different day. But next week, we're talking about hitting myths, plenty out there, hitting farces, plenty out there. And, like everything out there on the market, there are myths and there are farces when it comes to hitting. Hitting is not immune to that. And I actually have a couple in mind already, but we'll discuss that next week.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Good, man. We will talk to you next week. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great week.